Hello, and thank you for joining us on the midweek edition of Journalist Hangout. This week, I'm Ayodele Uzubakun. The need to intensify the fight against COVID-19 is key as pandemic spread further across Nigeria. Today on the program, Nigeria records 30 more confirmed cases of coronavirus in 24 hours as private citizens step up distribution of food packs amid rising tension and attacks on food delivery vehicles. I'll be hanging out with Babajide Kolade-Otitoju and Solomon Ajuziogu. So if you're ready, let the hangout start now. Thank you for joining us. A change in tactics in any engagement will definitely lead to different outcome. The decision by the Lagos State government to embark on door-to-door contact tracing of suspected cases of coronavirus for testing has been a rise in number of confirmed cases. The Nigerian Center for Disease Control, NCDC, announced 19 new cases on Tuesday evening and another 11 few hours later, totaling 30 cases recorded in the country within 24 hours. Meanwhile, private citizens are stepping up distribution of food packs to vulnerable citizens amidst a rising hunger-induced tension in the cities like Lagos. Cases of attacks on food delivery vehicles become rife as people struggle to survive the lockdown. Let's share some of the moments with you.
For brother light, oh, there is still rice. There is still rice, oh, from this motor, see. Jesus!
Mama.
Sad situation, sad reality. Now, Babajide, I saw a woman. He had a video message and was appealing passionately to Governor Babajide's Sanwo-Olu. You know, she was crying. She was saying she was quite emotional about it and saying that people in the country, that especially in Lagos State, what do they want area boys to be eating? What do they want the downtrodden to be eating? When locking down people and not giving palliative and everything. Now, what she refused to mention throughout that video that I saw, she wasn't talking about the dangers of the coronavirus. So it dawned on me that she might not understand the implication of what is happening. That this goes beyond Babajide Sanwo-Olu. This goes beyond President Muhammadu Buhari. We are fighting.
We're in a war.
We're in a war, and so there's this sentiment that our government, you should be able to feed everybody. You should be able to disburse money. I don't know. Information to people outside there, they feel that both the federal government and the state government, they are so buoyant, they can feed everybody.
I'm here to see that government that can feed its entire citizens. Even if there is the capacity to feed the entire citizens of a country, they want to use that money for something else. You can't feed everyone. I said it, some people took me on because for many people who argue on social media, there is no desire to get involved in a healthy argument. They don't even read what you write thoroughly.
Just
You know, the key word is all the citizens. But they go to town to say, he doesn't want government to feed people. We are saying government cannot feed all its citizens. And I've challenged people that a country like India, that is described as the biggest lockdown, 1.4 billion people, is it practicable for India to even feed half of that, even a quarter of that? Is it practicable for the Modi administration in India to even feed a quarter of that population? 1.4 billion people. So that is why we are saying that well-to-do citizens, lawmakers, you belong to these constituencies. Begin to do something in those areas. And I'm happy that some people are already listening, they are beginning to do it. That's the way to go. We can't leave all of this to government. I agree that our people are going through a lot. I agree that we need to do much more than we are doing in terms of palliatives. But other Nigerians need to jump in. Other Nigerians with considerable means, they need to jump in.
what we've noticed now is that there's this attempt to scuttle the stay down at home order given by the federal government on the guise that we have to continue with our businesses, we have to continue with, the commercial activities. When you go outside, anywhere in Lagos, around 5, 6, you see Okada riders, you see bus drivers. They are on the road trying to pick up 1 or 2 passengers, and people will always go out that window.
It seems that as the lockdown stretches, it begins to wane, and people are getting a bit tired. Yes, it is true, but then this is where enforcement also comes in. There has to be a deliberate attempt to enforce the rules. Whereas the president and the governor of Lagos have told the law enforcement agents, the police particularly, to be humane. Okay, being humane is not abdicating your responsibilities of enforcing the rules. Now, you would also understand that Nigerians have lived almost in perpetual skepticism about government, about public officials, about the sincerity of government in dealing with matters of state or things that concern the common man. That's one. Then the other thing is Nigerians have always lived under this impression, this assumption of the potentialities of the Nigerian state, its capacity to be able to take care of everyone that is a Nigerian. You know, that the country has enormous resources. Now, we know that no country in the world, not even the United States, the richest country in the world, has so much resources to the point where you can feed everybody. But certainly that is the assumption a lot of Nigerians have. I think that what government needs to do is just to step up, the mitigation efforts, the palliatives, making sure that this reaches the people, and then people who are of means. You get calls. I'm sure you're already getting calls from people who know you, who need help. So as much as we can within our own capacity, I think that we need to reach out to people. But this is important, that people also need to realize, and that's why I keep hammering on the point of communication. Communication. I think we also need to rack up the communication. We need to create greater awareness on all of this.
Babajide, now the conversation is around the door-to-door tests for Lagos State by Lagos State government and to contact tracing. And how viable is this exercise going to be?
It's one of the advantages of the sit-at-home order is that it also helps you to locate the people that you are looking for. Chances are that you will find them where they are supposed to be, which is their homes. So because they can't travel around, There is no such liberty to go just anywhere that pleases you. So it's one advantage. You can locate them right in their homes because the regulation kind of holds them bound in their houses. So it's really helping. I was told somewhere in Akute that a man, that government officials came to pick a man from his house because he had been listed amongst people they were looking for. If we are to defeat this pandemic in our country, then the contact tracing has to be done in a very aggressive manner. You must locate the people concerned where they are. You must get to their homes. Just that people do on election day in America. It's called get out the vote. You use volunteers to go from door to door, go into people's homes, tell them to come out to exercise their franchise and all that, because most people on election day become lethargic. They just sit down, they don't feel like going out to vote. So it's the same thing that, it's the same approach that the Lagos State government is adopting. If people are not voluntarily coming out to offer themselves to be tested, then you have to go look for them where they are. Once you have data about their whereabouts, then you have to go for them. That is what the government is doing. And I believe that if we continue to do it, we'll be able to haul in more people for testing, because the testing is crucial. Many people are asymptomatic, so they assume that they are well. They assume that they are not carrying the virus. But when you subject them to a test, you then discover that they are actually carrying the virus. So as we can see now, Kano reported 5 more cases, bringing the confirmed cases in Kano to 9. Kano was a state that we are all talking about, that this Kano, what is happening, how come no one has been infected and all that. But it takes one person. It takes one person to be infected
like
to actually spread it amongst 1,000 people or more. You know, cause the spread to happen amongst 1,000 people. So that's what we have with Kano, because all of them have been traced to the index case. Yeah, so, and we are in a very dangerous phase now, the community transmission. If we do not handle it in a very aggressive manner, we could be in trouble. A friend of mine in Sokoto was saying, Jide, you know why we are bothered? Niger Republic is our neighbor, and Niger already has more than 370 cases. You know, so, and you know, Niger and Sokoto, the communities are very close. It's a border, Jibia, for example, you know, Ilela, all of those communities, they are close to Niger Republic. Even Katsina communities too close. The last time we had one serious flooding in Katsina, some corpses were washed away by rain, and they were discovered in Niger Republic. So if you have that kind of situation, and the people always come into trade, so chances are that some of the people carrying the virus in Niger Republic could actually come to Nigeria. In fact, there's no country that has extensive borders with Nigeria like Niger Republic. States like Kebbi, Sokoto, Jigawa, Kano, Yobe, Borno, they all have borders with Niger Republic. So we have to be very careful.
We see a lot of people wearing face masks and their hand gloves, and the Minister of Education, the Minister of Health is just confirming it now that market women must always wear their face mask. and these things are not readily available in the market?
Well, the marketplace is a place where people converge, and so where you have people gather like that, precautionary measures have to be taken, and very serious one. I also think that health officers should also take note of those places, especially the market. In this lockdown, you have certain exemptions to places where food is sold. So you have to then deploy health officers to enforce a higher level of hygiene at this moment in those places. Secondly, talking about Kano, I think that Kano is one of the states that took the matter a bit lying low earlier, where people went about behaving like it really didn't matter. You know, they wanted to still converge on their mosques. They still want to have their social gatherings, whether religious or otherwise. But now the reality is that it's in the state and they can see it. Sometimes it's better that you don't experience this kind of thing to know that it is real. My worry is the density, the population density in the city center in Kano metropolis alone could be a point of egress where the thing begins to expand and to grow, where people make contact. It took so much time for Kano to have its first case. Now we have 9. My problem is today we've reported 30 cases in 24 hours. Now, the challenge you have with that is that it is the single largest, reported case since we discovered, since the index case in Lagos, since it started here in Nigeria. Now, that shows that the thing seems to be moving a bit higher, because we came from just 5 the other day, and then within 24 hours we have 20. I'm worried, 30 I mean. I'm worried that it could be higher going forward. And you can see the peak of the curve. It's going up. It's actually going up. So seems like we've not got to the peak at all.
Jide, one other thing that can assist security, that can reduce the crime rates in the affected areas, the states that we have locked down, that's Lagos, Ogun, and Abuja, is the ability of governments to come up with palliatives. And in the absence of government, if governments like Governor Babajide yesterday actually announced that they were going to be feeding 100,000 people. Now, a lot of people have been saying that goodwill Nigerians, people that they have the resources, they have the money, that if they come together in their own environments, try and do something in their own environment, that's, it will reduce the tension.
Yes, it certainly will reduce the tension. We have lawmakers from all parts of the country.
360 House of
we have senators, we have state assembly members. In each of their constituencies, we need to see what they are doing. This is the time for them to give back to the people.
Honestly.
Because the truth is, they have so much. Their pockets are deep, considerably deep. Whether they admit it or not, we know. We know that their pockets are considerably deep. This is the time for them to jump in and assist the government. If anybody imagines that it's the government,
because are the people you run to,
yes,
anytime
when you need their votes. So, and I'm happy.
That people you use.
I saw some visuals of Faleke, the lawmaker representing Ikeja Federal Constituency, the House of Reps. I saw some visuals of him giving food packs to people in his constituency. And when I called him, he said, look, I have given food to 4,000 households in my constituency. 4,000 households. That is significant.
Reduce the tension.
And it has to also continue. It shouldn't stop at that. Yes, that must have cost him more than 20 million. But this is something that he has to continue. And his colleagues in the National Assembly, he also needs to get them, talk to some of them. Bajabi Amila, the speaker, needs to use this opportunity to appeal to his colleagues. Let Nigerians feel the humanism in their lawmakers at this time, because it's at crucial times that we know people for who they truly are. We can't have lawmakers who would treat a time like this like just any other time. No. Make that difference in a time like this. I saw also a video of Remi Omowaye. I hope the producer will show us.
Commissioner for Works
yes.
in
In the rain, Remi Omowaye was distributing food in the rain.
Yes, I saw that picture.
And that's significant. How many people will go, is the commissioner in the state, how many people will go out and go to the extent of distributing food in the rain?
He said when they were begging for votes, they were campaigning right inside the rain. So why not to give back to them? So that it should not be a strange thing that is.
This is what, if everyone is just a commissioner in the state, and he is also relying on other people to offer some support so that he can sustain it. Now, if other commissioners in that state, if every lawmaker in that state,
we'll start calling out Nigerians, because to your constituent, this is the
what
time.
Have you done? We need to ask
to
them
the
questions.
occasion.
What have you done at this time
occasion.
to mitigate the pain?
It's not the number of cars you buy. It's not the number of wealth you accumulate.
Don't flaunt. It's not how you flaunt it. This is Remi Omowaye. This is Remi Omowaye. You know,
Osun State.
Yes.
Commissioner for Works.
You will see, because this thing, it has taken him some time to do this. You will see where he was distributing this thing in the rain. In the rain. So, and I hope we can see even Faleke's.
These people will be somewhere in Elisha, if that is his constituency. I know he's from Elisha,
but we don't. I don't even ask him where.
He's from Osogbo.
Could even be in the state capital.
But anywhere you are,
just his people's pain. That is the point that we are making. Jamil, MJ Abubakar too, he's been doing that.
Yes.
He's not a politician. He doesn't need people's votes. He's just a young man who cannot stand people feeling so much pain.
Yeah.
And he has said, help us. You are journalists, help us to reach as many people as possible who are hungry. Today again at Fashakin Street in Akute, we distributed, what we did was we collected the names of pregnant women, old women, people who are looking really distressed. We collected their names. And those names amounting to about 177. We now began to call them and we were giving them those food packs. That's what I mean. Those food packs, you know, so that at least the next day they'll feel happier and tension will go down. After we did that, we now focus on young people. That's Remi in the rain. We now focus on young people, the bad boys. So we said, okay, take your own too.
Senator Remi Tinubu, she calls them good boys.
This is the biggest constituency project that any rep or senator or public official can undertake. Public officials exist for the state. The state is built by people. It is the people that make up the state. Now, if you cannot exist for the state, it means you cannot, if you cannot exist for the people, if you cannot carry out the biggest constituency project of our time. This is the biggest constituency project.
I'm telling you.
Because the fallout of this could even lead to the change of government in some places.
Yes.
The fallout of this could
create
unrest, could create revolutions. But when it does not, if it does not, it could influence the outcome of the next elections. So people need to be up and doing. Public officials need to now exist for the people. It is not about capital project anymore. We're probably not going to be able to construct roads at this time.
Election time that we're distributing 5,000.
Exactly. Exactly. So we're not going to be constructing roads now. We're not going to be putting up structures. This is about feeding the people. Now, the government does not have the bottomless till to do that.
Yes, because there's this
People who
erroneous
have
impression
exactly
that government can do it alone.
Exactly. So that is the assumption. But there are people of means, and I think this is the time to come out. And there's also this general assumption that, okay, politicians, okay, you've benefited from the country. Now this is the time for you to give out. Except, of course, the politicians will want to pretend that we're really not making that much. Nobody wants to believe that.
So why do
Nobody will believe that.
Even contest for elective
Even if you are making a little, we are not interested in the debate about what they earn, because they've never been honest with us in disclosing what they earn. What we are saying is, even from the little at your disposal, you should be able to give out to the poor in our society. And when you give out to the poor, you will help us to reduce the tension in the land.
Yes.
You know, for example, your government is in power. You have to support the government at the center by helping to bring down this tension. And how do you do it? Reach out to people who truly need money, who truly need food to survive at this time. I saw a video of a young woman who said people gathered in front of her house the moment she came out, and they were saying, look, we are hungry, you need to give us something. The longer this lockdown lasts, the greater the tension, the greater the effects of hunger.
You've never
That are
experienced
people
this kind
that
of
are
thing
no, nobody was expecting it. The truth is a global thing. I was reading about France when France slipped into recession, and I read that people who are promised what's it called, some financial palliatives and all that up to now it has not come, and people have run out of savings. So people are facing this problem and it's manifesting in different ways. People are going through so much pain, not just in Nigeria, but other parts of the world. But the determination is that we have to defeat this pandemic.
We'll take this breather. When we come back, we'll discuss more. It's still Journalist Hangout. Please. It's Journalist Hangout. We're reaching you live from television Continental here in Lagos, Nigeria. Babajide, before we went on that break, we were appealing to well-meaning Nigerians, politicians, captains of the industries, that this is the time to come out generously to actually help the government in whatever they are doing to ameliorate the hunger in the land, especially the affected states, Lagos, Ogun, and Abuja. Do you understand? Like we said earlier, the lawmaker representing Ikeja Federal Constituency, that's Honorable Abiodun James Faleke. I know his enclave is in Ojodu here. I know this is what
that's his house, and the women, he invited the women to
these are big packs.
yes, this is rice for the people of his constituency. And we are saying this is a good example. You can see these ones are yet to be
Divided.
Yes, shared. So we are saying that more and more of the rich people in our society should do this. If they do this, it will ease the pain that our people feel. It will also bring down the tension. And then government can focus on the other aspects, which is to ensure that this thing does not spread rapidly and ensure that we ultimately defeat this pandemic, you know. So the issue of the palliatives, yes, it's important because if people continue to get very hungry, it's a threat to the success of the lockdown.
Yes.
So now,
that's why they go out.
to ensure that the lockdown itself achieves the aim for which it was instituted, we are saying that people need to help government.
Not just food for one day, but at least something that can sustain them.
Yes,
Like
for some time.
For some time. When you get packs like this, you can sustain them for like 2
There's
weeks.
there's a senator representing that constituency.
Yes.
Yayi is a senator.
Yes.
people, Yayi too,
Yes.
can do something like this.
Yes.
So whatever Yayi gives should not be limited to it should not be limited to Alimosho area alone.
Okay. Cover all
Yes.
his constituents.
Yes, it's a business
Senatorial
covers-
districts.
he
the
covers more
entire
ground.
senatorial district.
He should naturally cover more ground.
Yes.
Basically.
Okay, I think my producer just told me that Yayi did something last week, and we like to
We
have
said
this,
it's ongoing. It has to be
yes,
ongoing.
it has to be ongoing because it has been extended, and we have 14 days in our hands.
So if we've done something last week and it's extended,
Yes.
it means you have to come back.
Yes.
You have to continue.
Jamil, who is not a politician,
Yes.
has already released food packs 2 times now.
Even in that Ojodu, Bolaji Shone is a ward chairman from his own money. He's a private person.
Ah.
Since on the 14th, since the first 14 days, he has been doing that to the people of Akiode and everybody, feeding 200, 300 people on a daily basis.
At the start of the program, we saw the mob action, people looting trucks and
Yes.
reaching out for whatever
That shows you the
they
extent
can.
of-
That is the extent of probably the hunger, and then how desperate some of the people are. Now, if it continues that way on the street, then we're in for some trouble.
Real anarchy.
So that is why people of means, individuals
So
who
if
have
you
the
spot
pocket,
any vehicle,
exactly.
any bus now,
this shouldn't This shouldn't be.
In daytime.
Now you are not
Daytime.
and now you are not going to go out shooting people because they are really hungry. So the point is this: we have to, I on the streets when I engage people and I'm talking, people are like, okay, they donated billions and billions. Okay, why can't the banks? This very easy assumption.
yeah.
Why are they giving all that money to government? Are they sure it's going to get to us? Why don't they just credit our accounts?
That's what somebody said. That government is just mystifying this thing. That look, government should give like 2,000 to every account holder. Every account holder. Once somebody has a bank account, I then said, even that will be unfair because when you go to northern Nigeria, for
yes,
example,
so
People don't have bank
there are many people who do not have bank accounts.
accounts.
And some of them is purely for religious reasons.
and the poorest people,
They will not put their money
they
in
don't
the
have, they can't boast of bank accounts. You can't reach them. I doubt if you have over 30 million people in Nigeria, that's BVN something we accommodate. So I don't think.
But I think that this is one of the biggest opportunities. Well, contact tracing is not just for sicknesses. You can trace people because people keep saying that we do not have a database. And I ask myself, people have BVN numbers in banks, people have registration,
harmonize
SIM
it has
card,
been-
people talk
has
about
been
SIM card
like rocket
registration.
science.
You have NIMC, you have INEC database. People have these things all over. How do we as a people, as a country, bring all of these things together? Because individually, the networks, the telephone networks have a database of everybody who has a SIM card. The banks have the numbers of everybody who has a bank account. The INEC, the electoral body, has a database of everyone who votes. Why can't we pull all of this together? FRSC has a database of everybody who has a car. We can actually pull all of this together and then create a database. So this pandemic, it's not just about the negatives. There's also an opportunity for us to put some things together and get our acts right. But importantly, if the people are hungry, we don't want to see them hungry. People will get more desperate. There's a little model or a little assumption that when people get hungry, it will increase unrest.
Insecurity, unrest, yes.
Insecurity sets in, violence sets in, and it threatens government and the state. We want to avoid that.
Jide, let's go to the international community, other countries now. We have 5 countries with the highest deaths. The US is 12,733, followed by Spain, 18,056, Italy, 21,067, France, 15,072, UK, 12,107. Now, the US President Donald Trump has temporarily is saying that he wants to halt funding to the World Health Organization over its handling of the coronavirus pandemic. He's saying he accused the WHO of being too lenient with China in the earliest days of the pandemic. What is wrong with that, Mr. Trump? How can you be withdrawing funding in the in the middle of a pandemic that we're battling with?
Well, he said that WHO was biased in favor of China, that when the world wanted travel ban, you know, the WHO advised against a travel ban at that time, which would have saved the situation. He said that, secondly, the Chinese withheld information about this virus for so long. That is an accusation that is not Trump alone that has made. Many countries have accused them of withholding information that could have helped the world. You know, they were late in telling the truth. Of course, it's a big closed society, so I'm not surprised that they could do that. They were late in letting the world know the extent of the problem that we are up against and the ways and means by which the problem can be addressed. That is what many countries, many leaders of the world hold against China. Yes, the virus has come, but that China should have not withheld information at the time that it withheld it. For example, if people knew on time that this was a very bad situation, they would not be going to France. Many Americans were still, we would not be going to China. Many Americans were still going to China until this whole problem became unbearable. So he's saying that the World Bank did not act decisively, that the World Bank's handling of this thing, the World Health Organization, I'm sorry, the World Health Organization did not act decisively when it should have acted. That, for example, on the issue of travel ban, that it was suggested, but the World Bank dismissed it that no. I also remember the World Bank spokesman saying, look,
WHO,
we don't want,
Organization.
why am I even calling them World Bank?
The world needs
I'm
the
already
funds.
thinking of money.
The world needs the funds.
The world needs money. You know, the WHO spokesman was saying, I don't want to describe this as a pandemic. Like the rest of us, even the World Health Organization underrated this disease. I see have that
later
quote.
they considered.
Yes, I see have that
this
quote. They
is
didn't
a
want to
pandemic.
describe it as a pandemic. That no, let's not, like that we don't want to describe as a pandemic yet. They too are grappling with information and the right information about this. So Trump is frustrated, no doubt about it. Anybody in his position will be frustrated. That's why I say, okay, America literally carried the WHO on its back in terms of funding. So if WHO failed us at this time, then I'm going to withhold the funding, even if it's just temporarily. So that's what he's saying.
Solomon, what do you make of this?
That's consistent with the Trump administration since he took over. He has called for a review of the terms and conditions with which America engages the rest of the world. And he says that most of the terms and conditions, when they were drafted, are already obsolete for the realities of today. A lot of people thought, what is this man talking about? So if the United States of America spends more than $400 million on the WHO, gives WHO that amount of money, which is the largest contribution by a single country to the World Health Organization. And then the World Health Organization wouldn't be up and doing, you know. So the narrative at this moment, because the Americans have looked at how do we deal with this matter? What exactly, who has to pay? See, American approach is always, when something goes wrong, somebody has to pay. Somebody has to pay. And so the talk is, okay, did China do this deliberately? Was there complicity in making this thing this way? You know, the first time I came on the show about 2 weeks ago or thereabout, I talked about Taiwan raising questions. The first country to raise...
Was that the first time you came on the show?
No, this week on this coronavirus issue. And then I talked about Taiwan raising questions about this. In fact, the way Taiwan painted the picture was as if there was a deliberate attempt by China to hoard information, and that this thing had broken out. There had been an outbreak long before the world knew it, and it seemed that some Chinese scientists were the ones who actually leaked information, and then Taiwan was, able to intercept the information or get the information, and alerted the world, alerted the WHO, and said, look, so thing is going on. Then the WHO said, no, we're not going to do it. There's nothing. We have to get from China. We have to confirm from China before China now owned up. And then you imagine the number of people that probably would have moved from the epicenter to the rest of the world. Imagine how the whole of the world would have been saved. This sort of thing. Now, there is also this talk about whether, okay, if it was deliberate to withhold information, to what end? Is it because it's a big closed society that is always interested in propaganda of looking good and doing things well? Or was there any other reason, like a bioweapon, and all of that? These are issues that are coming up at the moment, and it seems the Americans are looking at it.
When you look at who has really, you gave the world a virus, and you have only lost about 3,000 persons.
Officially.
Well, officially.
Officially.
But some have lost 12,000.
Spain,
Far away from where
Italy, 21,000.
Far away from where the chain began.
The United
Then
States has
you
actually
are
lost 26.
Your stock market didn't crash. For others, stock market crashed. People are bound to talk about conspiracy theories. Then you offer to help Italy. Suddenly, you caused things to get worse. You supply them fake testing kits, and then things got.
I think we also experienced that.
Things even got badder in Italy.
That's
so
why we're suspicious
China,
of the Chinese
people
that
will be suspicious of the Chinese. Look at what is going on now off the coast of Taiwan. The American aircraft carriers, some of the captains, the crew people have already contracted the virus. So they can't unleash the armada of weapons that they have in that area. And there's always the threat that China will attack Taiwan. America always tries to protect Taiwan. Some time ago, during the Bush administration, the moment China began to threaten Taiwan, Bush just sent 2 submarines to the coast of Taiwan, and the whole threat went away. Right now, the Chinese have a free rein, moving on those waters, because the 2 American carriers are technically unable to move around because already the coronavirus has been spotted amongst crew members and all that. So they have to first go and take care of those ones. So this virus has materialized as a kind of blessing in disguise for China, and has pushed China to the front, like the true world power. When you imagine the extent to which it has ravaged China, you compare it to the way it has ravaged America, UK, Italy, Spain, then you see clearly that
something is wrong.
Something is wrong, and they have clearly, in inverted commas, even benefited from this pandemic.
Solomon, still talking about China. China has approved 3 vaccines of the novel coronavirus disease for clinical trials. This take
on humans.
I think they will start with animals first before it can be deployed.
No, they've even approved test on humans. I was reading it yesterday.
So that means I got into.
So if you were not aware of a virus, how did you quickly develop a vaccine?
Because the time that it takes is not less than 3-4 months.
So the question, that's
Clinical trials and
questions you have to ask, questions and questions and questions. But then, be that as it may, we hope that we will be able to get a cure. It's not just a vaccine that should be able to cure things like this. Not just vaccines. We should be able to get drugs, medication that could solve this. The Americans are coming up with their own. Other people, the French, are coming up with something. Everybody is stepping up a level of research that will bring up something, and then it will be much more beautiful if we have a variety, of a variety of medication that can put an end to this. But my worry is, if you go into history, when things like this happened, whether it was Spanish flu in 1918 to 1920, or the one that took place after the World War in 1948, or the one that took place in 1968, do they just go away within 2-3 months? They don't usually go away within 2-3 months.
Who claimed 50 million lives.
So you can imagine that this is not a joke. Now, because a lot of people...
Even if you see the way this thing is killing people in Ecuador, except if those...
the Ecuador... I was actually...
You'll be scared.
No, because of Ecuador, I got thinking, Ecuador is like Nigeria, a third of the world country, and with weak health systems. And I worry. At this moment, we seem to have a low count. But you see what's happening in Ecuador. It's massive, long queue to the cemetery.
Yes.
Some
and they are leaving dead bodies on the road.
I mean,
but the shocking thing is that the number of people officially announced to have died is probably sexed up. If it's not sexed up,
to what we see,
we won't have that
kind of video. I've seen videos. Places that are not mocks, you just see them, dead bodies, they're not even covered.
On the road, even houses.
They're using cardboards to carry people. Cardboards.
In their houses. People live with corpses in their houses. I mean, it's that bad. So I worry.
And they are disposing some even in the sea.
We don't have... Africa has a weak health system, a weak medical system. And I worry that, the way the virus is traveling, I hope it doesn't come to Africa and hit Africa.
And
that's
then come to Africa already. Nigeria probably 570 cases already. I mean, Cameroon 848 cases. So he's here in Africa. Remember the great man, Manu Dibango, the musician, the musical legend from Cameroon, died in France from coronavirus. So he's in Africa already. We can only hope that...
We hope it doesn't peak beyond where it is now, because if it does, it will... If it does...
Okay, we have to go. Thank you, Professor Solomon Ajuziogu.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And Bikio, thank you so much for always being there. And that's our package today. Join us tomorrow for another episode of the program, and watch Journalist Hangout on our platforms showing on the screen. We're on YouTube, youtube.com/TVC News Nigeria. Our feedback channel is Journalist Hangout